It's 8:15 and I'm here at last. This afternoon's been absolutely brutal. I'm going to have to crash out. I think I'm so shattered. It's been quite a long, hard day actually. So I'll say good night. Good morning from St Mary the Virgin at Walkhampton. This is where I champed last night. Look, there's even a notice champing in progress. That's me. There's my bike with the flat tyre. Got the inner tube ready to mend it this morning. I was so grateful for getting here last night without having to mend the puncture on the road, you know, taking the panniers off when you're tired, getting the back wheel out, trying to mend it in the gateway of a field. I can do it this morning at my leisure. I've got surgical gloves, but you know, there's even a sink there. I can wash my hands afterwards. There's my cereals and my bread. I've got lovely kitchen area, hot water dispenser. I even got a cafetiere. Just made myself a coffee. I'll be doing another one shortly, charging my devices. Even a fridge there. That reminds me, I better get my margarine out. They've left me a bottle of milk as well. I don't drink milk, unfortunately, so that was nice though. Put my beer in there last night. That was nice to have chilled beer. Then you get this. Oh yeah, they welcome dogs. So there's dog drinking bowls everywhere outside. You know, so sleeping bed for their dogs. That's where I sat last night, out on that seat. My beer is just chilling out. Sat out there this morning. It's warm already with the coffee. You're surrounded by this glorious countryside. About half a mile or so up quite a steep hill from the village of Walkhampton. And that's what I was looking at. The church last night as it got dark. Had all the windows lit up. I lit the bell tower up as well. The actual window for that is facing out that way. And it was lighting up all the graveyard. That was really nice. Had a little mooch down there later on. There was a crescent moon up there with a really bright planet above it. This church is quite unusual, they say, because it faces northeast rather than east, and it actually faces in the direction of the rising sun on the summer solstice. And well, you can make your own mind up about that, but it's just a beautiful, beautiful place. I've got my bike outside, back wheel out, got my surgical gloves on. As always, I think have to put me fingers around the inside of the tyre just to make sure there's no sort of sharp object embedded in there. The last thing you want to do is mend it and then 3 miles later it's going soft again. So I was just about to have a look at that and look at the culprit. It's like a big metal staple embedded in there. How I got here on that, I just don't know. I have got a tyre boot and I may put that underneath there. It's just an old bit of toothpaste tube I cut up into squares. I was thinking last night, oh, it's probably riding over that rough stuff. I sort of just got a sharp stone, but no, that's a serious bit of puncture cause, isn't it? That's the puncture repaired. Coming up to 9 AM. I'm not going to leave here till 10 because I've got the church till 10, but I do probably need to start going in and getting myself organised. I did spread myself out a bit last night, so I'm going to have to be so careful that I don't forget anything. Done all my washing, packing, wiped everything down that I used, got contact lenses in, things like that. Really nice encounter. This lady came in, made me jump actually because I was facing the front, and said, oh, I'm going to do a service in here, is that okay? And I said, yeah, sure, you know, I've only got this till 10 o'clock. She said, it'll only be me unless you want to join me. I sort of politely declined. I'm just going to turn all the lights off. I've just checked my route to Herodsfoot. It's Cornwall's only thankful village. It's actually a double thankful village, so just a quick refresh. Thankful villages are where every person who went off to serve in the First World War returned to their village safely alive. There's 54 around the UK, and I'm gradually visiting them all and leaving a poppy at each. But 16 of those 54 are also believed to be doubly thankful villages, which means every person who went off to fight in the First and Second World War returned safely. And Herodsfoot is one of the 16. It's quite a way out down here actually, so I wanted to come, but I wanted to combine it with something else, make the journey worthwhile, and yesterday certainly was worthwhile. I just check the route, I go along there, back down the track, joining that lane that I climbed out of, and you actually go back down to Walkhampton, the village. Really nice, got a stream going through it, some shops down there, I can pick up some sort of juice and some sandwiches for later on. Wow, really sorry to leave. Just dropped back down into the lovely village of Walkhampton. You can see the stream flowing down. This is the way I dropped in last night, having come across a bit of Dartmoor down to the War Memorial. And then this was just wonderful, even though I was really tired. Had the buzz of sort of like almost reaching my destination. I suddenly looked up and thought, I got to get up there. And that was quite tough getting up there, that last third of a mile or so. I'm now in the lovely village of Horrobridge. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it, by the bridge here, with the waterfall behind it, and there's buzzards flying around up from Dartmoor. I'm just sat down here, having a little bit of a snack. There's a shop there that I've stocked up on supplies. So today I'm heading to Herodsfoot, which is Cornwall's only thankful village. Linda's knitted me these lovely woolen poppies, so I'll be leaving one of those there, as I do at all the thankful villages. You may notice this actually. It's not a surgical implant or my pacemaker sticking out. It's an action camera I bought recently, and the reason I got it is, well, firstly because it does a tons of stuff, including really good stabilisation and keeps a horizontal horizon. But more importantly, it's magnetic. It just clips to this very firmly, to this lanyard which is under my t-shirt. You've got none of these horrible chest harnesses, you know, with all the screws on. So I'm hoping it's going to be much easier to use, but it does 1,001 different things. I can't even begin to scratch the surface of it. If I did, my brain would implode. But let me just show you one. Start recording. Stop recording. I don't know if you heard that. So it's got voice activation control, so you can imagine if I'm riding my bike, I don't have to go fiddling around with switches and buttons and all that. It's much safer. But I just started thinking, if I pulled off a stunt like that 500 years ago, I'd have probably got burnt at the stake for witchcraft. Little bit of rough stuff coming into Tavistock, running right alongside a very busy A road. I imagine this is the old version of it, which is just left to grass over. So a bit rough, but much nicer than what's on my right hand side. I'm coming in on the back roads into Tavistock, being signposted on this Sustrans route. How nice is this? I'm now at Tamar Valley line, just in Cornwall. You can see Dartmoor over in the distance if I zoom in, one of the tours. As I came down into Tavistock, there's a really neat bit of GPS navigating through back streets and through parks, across the river. That was really nice, just avoided the town centre. And then you climbed up on this quite winding hairpinny A road. It wasn't too bad, just went on a long time. Started to really heat up there, and then you turn off left near the summit onto a lane, and then you plateau out for a little bit, and then you drop down into the Tamar Valley, and literally it was like going down a ski slope. I just thought, oh, my rims are up to this. And then on the other side you could see just like a wall of trees, and I thought, please don't say we've got to go out there. Hopefully I'm going to turn into the valley one way or the other, because I'm just following the GPS. Well, you crossed over the River Tamar, and of course that's the border with Cornwall. There was the Cornwall boundary border there, and then it just goes up and up and up, and this is where I am now. I saw signs for the Tamar Valley line. I just sort of had it in my head, you know, it would be down in the valley following the river, but it's not. It's right at the summit. I just stopped back there just because I was holding traffic up. Every time I felt there's queues, traffic behind me, I pulled in. This lady sort of said, "You're nearly there." So I thought, great, I'm going to put in the station and have my lunch here. Today's only half the distance of yesterday, and I was sort of thinking, hope it's only half as hard. So far it hasn't been. But to give you an idea how hard it is, the rubber on that side of my sunglasses has come off. Haven't lost it. I've actually put it in the case so I can glue it when I get home, but that's just come unpeeled, I guess because I'm just sweating so much. Anyway, time for lunch. Here we go, up again. The final mile towards Herodsfoot, doubly thankful village, my destination for today. I've got all my supplies all stocked up for wild camp, and I think I've identified by Google Maps, Street View and satellite layer a good place to camp. Wow, what a lovely run into Herodsfoot. Dropping down steep again, as you can see. Wow, look at that scenery. Here we are, Herodsfoot, Thankful Village, boundary sign. As you drop down steeply, just past the boundary sign, before you drop into the village proper, there's this church, All Saints Herodsfoot, and I just instinctively thought that's possibly where the slate plaque is. I didn't want to go all the way down to just have to come up to relocate it. I've just been in there and it's not in there, so I'll have a meander around the village. Possibly then, I'm not sure if there's another church down there, or possibly a village green, something like that. If failing that, I'll just ask someone. So yeah, just down a very, very steep descent into the village itself. It's just coming up to 4 p.m. and I've arrived at my destination today, Herodsfoot, Cornwall's only thankful village. It's been another very hard and hilly day today. The Tamar Valley was just something else as you enter Cornwall. I passed through Liskeard, picked up some supplies. My aim is to do a wild camp tonight, hopefully. I've Google mapped somewhere, I've street viewed it and satellite imaged it, because there's a couple of campsites around there, but I don't really want to use a commercial campsite. But I passed through Liskeard, picked some supplies up, climbed out steeply, and then came along a road which then dropped down into the village. And that church there, that was halfway down. That was how steep the road coming down is. And my first thought was, oh, the slate plaques are normally in the churches. But I went in there and it wasn't, because I didn't want to go all the way back up. Then I thought, well, there's probably a green or something on the village square. And lo and behold, I saw the war memorial. My first thought was, it'll probably be there. And it is as well. What a lovely place. Wish I could get away with camping here tonight. So Linda's knitted me these lovely poppies. She asked some of her friends on the internet who are knitters to suggest some patterns. Then she bought all the wool and the buttons, and she's knitted me many of these poppies. I'll be taking 16 on my holiday next month to visit 16 thankful villages. So there's the plaque, Herodsfoot, 1914 to 2014, a thankful village. Probably just leave that there. I hope people don't think I'm littering, but people can do what they want with it. They can remove it, throw it away. I don't really mind. I just feel that's what I wanted to do. Herodsfoot. 5:30 now, change of plan. I started sort of reappraising the situation in the village, thinking there's going to be a stonking hill out of here tomorrow morning, and do I really want to be riding up hills at 2.5 miles an hour? The thing is, I'm booked onto a train because I had to nominate a specific train, so I need a reservation for the bike. So there's a little bit of pressure. I think it's either 1:30 or 2:30, but I was sort of thinking naively, oh, I can just pack up about 10 o'clock and sort of meander into Plymouth. Well, I don't think that's going to be the case. And I fired up the Garmin, and the route for, theoretically, tomorrow's route was 17 miles. And I just thought, even if I can get sort of 4 or 5 of those, ideally 7, so I'll have less than 10 to do in the morning. That's just a Tamar, then I've got to get the ferry across into Plymouth. But just take pressure off me, so if I am grinding up hills first thing in the morning, I just sort of think, well, less than 10 miles to go. So I'm just going to carry on until, the mileage gets down a little bit less, and basically as soon as I find some of the camp. But I keep passing this, I don't know if this is a heritage railway or a working railway. I mean, the lines are silver, so it looks like it's well used. It's called St Cain's Wishamwell Halt. As you can gather, just dropped down into a wooded valley, and it looks like whichever way I go, I'm going to be climbing up again. 7:30, I've just found a place to camp with a view. That's looking down on the water going into Plymouth. There's a railway viaduct down there. That's near the mouth, I'd imagine. So to avoid the A38, I'm going in this way, and then I'm getting the Tor Point ferry across. It's a chain ferry, then my train tomorrow. The reason the change of plan, I got to Herefordshire about 4 p.m. I just started thinking this is a little bit too early to camp. Had a good look round, and to be honest, the place I found on the internet, Google Map, wasn't that great, to be honest. I just thought I could use the time better, really. It was preying on my mind a little bit. It's been so brutal today. Only 27 miles. I've got 18 to do tomorrow to get into Plymouth, and I just thought I need to break the back of that this afternoon. So I've overdone it, actually. I just thought if I could get less than 10 to go tomorrow, I'd feel a bit happy about that, waking up in the morning. As it turns out, I got 6.5. The reason being is I just couldn't find anywhere to camp, so I'm just on this bit of grass at the edge of this farmer's field. Hope I don't get moved on. I thought I'd get a quick bit of footage of this, just in case what I say is about to sound exaggerated. It's getting on for 9 p.m. now. I've got my tea on, boiling away pasta, and I'm going to stir in some chili con carne on the first of my beers. I just had my ground sheet out here. I was getting changed, and just as about to change from shorts into pants, that car pulled up, and a guy come up. I sort of said, oh, I hope you don't mind me camping here. I just literally couldn't find anywhere else. And that's true, I couldn't. And he sort of said, nah, you'll be alright, I don't have to farmer of mine. And I went, oh, okay, I thought you were. And then, anyway, I finished my changing in there. And then he lifted the gate lock up. I thought, oh, please don't say this is a dogging spot, dogging lay-by. Came along here, we had a quick chat. He had his satchel on. And what looked like a high-powered rifle, it had telescopic sight, and what to me looked like a silencer. So whether he's down there poaching, I just don't know. I'm not going to cast aspersions, but that was a bit weird. But I've been camping since the 1970s. Believe me, I've seen some weird stuff. Just charging devices down there, trying to make things easy to pack up in the morning. Boiling some pasta, put some chili con carne in it afterwards. And I'm using the action camera to do a time lapse as that gets dark down there. It's not, the sun's that way, so it's not ideal. It's my first time trying out the action camera. It's a modular camera, so that's the main body, and that's like a battery power pack, and you charge that and it pumps the power up to the main camera, and you can put an SD card in that up to, I think, 520 or something like that, something ridiculous. So you're never going to run out of storage, and that's how you charge it through there. So the charging is done through the battery. You can use that independently. Just because I got that on for a 2-hour time lapse, I just thought I'd better give it some extra battery power. And that's my view. It's nearly 9 o'clock. I love this time of the year when it's light this late. Looking over at Dartmoor there in the far distance. I was on the other side of that last night. Sunset behind me. Good morning from my tent. It's 5:30 in the morning now. Been up about an hour. I've just set the camera to do a time lapse of the sunrise over Plymouth. Thought I'd show you a couple of bits of kit I bought recently, bargains as well. There's this head torch, my old one failed eventually. I wear that cycling mostly. What I like about this is, well, I'll show you. If I turn that button, that's got a PIR sensor, so basically if I'm riding in the dark or I'm on an uneven surface, I just put my hand across and it activates. Or for camping, it's on steady, couple of settings, flashing, but if I hold it down it goes red. It swivels so you can point it in the direction you want, and it's USB chargeable. £8.40 I think that was from Screwfix. Absolutely brilliant. And the other game changer is this little mini pump. It's actually for inflating my sleeping mat, so the air gets sucked in there and it's blown into the sleeping mat. It inflates it in about 70, 80, 90 seconds. And it just avoids me getting lightheaded by blown up, or even worse, using one of those cumbersome pump sacks which only inflate it. Then if you reverse it this way, which I'm going to do right now, the air gets sucked out of the sleeping mat and it almost sort of shrink wraps it, much better than I could ever do, and the air this time gets expelled out there. And it just makes rolling the mat up so much easier. That is a real game changer for me. Again, USB rechargeable. But wait, as they say on American adverts, there's more. It's got that hinged hook. And then if you hold the button in, it's also your tent lantern. Brighter setting. And also an emergency distress beacon. How cool is that? Game changer. I've just been checking my route for today. 6 miles to Tor Point Ferry. The ferries normally run every 15 minutes, but there may be slight delays at the moment because I think one of the ferries is in for being serviced, and then across to Devonport, and it's 3 miles up to the station. Packed up, ready to start my journey. So just to make it clear, actually, this is a cropped field, but you can see there's 4-wheel drive tracks going down there, so the crops don't start to there. And I was right over there against the wall in that long grass. I even had my vestibule and my doorway facing the wall, so I was nowhere near the crops. Normally I wouldn't have camped here, but I was getting quite sort of desperate last night actually, and I tried several previous places, nothing was happening. Anyway, this is the road I'm on. This is far nicer way to get to Plymouth than the A38 on a bicycle. As you can imagine, it's down and there's a stonking great hill up the other side. You can see the sea there as well. I just saw a warship passing there actually through that gap. Anyway, day 3, let's get started. I'm now in Devonport, about 3.5 miles from the Plymouth railway station on my train home. I've just got that ferry across from Tor Point over there, and then there's the other one coming across. They run parallel and then pass each other mid-river. Surprised at the trains actually, considering how much weight is on those things. There are lorries and stuff, and the ferries themselves must weigh quite a few tons. Thought the trains would have been bigger. No charge for cyclists, that was quite nice. So it's been a really good cycle tour, mini cycle tour, giving me a chance to test out my kit and just slightly adjusted the way I'm navigating as well, so it's been a good chance to test that out. I really wanted to come down to Cornwall as one thankful village because it's a long way out, and I sort of thought I have to try and combine it with something else to make the journey worthwhile, which is why I included the Champing and the CCT rather, Churches Conservation Trust South Devon Trail. I'm really pleased with the action camera. I've only got it last week. There's a few things I like about it and a couple of things I don't. I think the one criticism would be, warning really to anybody considering buying it, you have to have a smartphone and you can only film 5 times on it before it'll just lock onto a QR code, so they force you to register it, so they've got all your data and stuff. And then I had a job syncing it with the app. I've never had problems Bluetooth and stuff before. This was just like really complicated, and I went to the help page and it just like might as well have been written in Swahili. I mean, I'm sure these people who write that sort of stuff must live in a hermetically sealed parallel universe, them and people who work out supermarket meal deals. Anyway, in the end I just went onto YouTube, and luckily enough, second video I watched, guy in Spanish, I mean his second language is English, he just explained it in a nutshell. Just said if you're having problems syncing it, there's 2 frequencies, just adjust the frequency. I did that and it went straight on. And you do need the app as well, because all the firmware updates are done through that. But the quality of the footage I've seen so far is really good. My computer, Windows 10, is struggling with the 4K footage. I may have to download some sort of patch update, I'm not sure. But the 1080p footage, which is what I've been filming in this trip, is absolutely stunning and fantastic. So I'm looking forward to sort of doing some B-roll stuff with that. I don't think I'll ever vlog on it, I'll stick with my phone, but for action camera and ease of use, I really like it. The magnet's really powerful. I mean, I've kept it well away from my phone, probably crash a few tills when I go to supermarkets, that sort of thing. Anyway, here's the other one coming. I better get out of its way because a load of traffic's going to come off that very shortly. Next stop, the station. It's now about 20 past 6 in the evening, and I'm about 2.5 miles from home towards the end of the Bath to Bristol bike track. So what happened there? Well, I got into Plymouth, thought I'll go and get a sandwich and sit up on the hoe and just sort of chill out for about 2 hours while I wait for my train. And then I got a ping on my Trainline app just to say there was reported disruption, and I was just like, I'll go to the station and just see what my options are. Well, I got there having had a bit of lunch, and I thought, oh look, there's a train half an hour before my scheduled one going to Bristol Temple Meads. I'll just see if I can get on that. They can always say no. It's a different railway company, didn't have a train bike booking for it. Anyway, cut long story short, I got on that. It was delayed leaving Plymouth because of signal problems up near Totnes, and then we had to wait for about 40 minutes outside the first stop, somewhere other. It's been a long day. And then there was another stop, and then they had to run it course. Cut long story short, it was 90 minutes late getting into Bristol Temple Meads. But it was a good call actually, that, because my scheduled train that I was going to get was cancelled, and then I looked on the Trainline app and it seemed to be every other one was cancelled because of this disruption. Even coming into Temple Meads, it crawled in because it had to wait for a platform to become available because it was way off its allocated time, and then when it pulled in the platform we had to wait 10 minutes for the doors to open. It was just one of those journeys, and I just thought, hey look, I know I'm going to try and get a laden bike on a commuter train bang on rush hour 5 o'clock. I just thought I'd ride back to Bath, and actually it's been really nice. Tailwind, load of shade on the Bath to Bristol bike track, and yeah, it's been a breeze really. This little mini tour then has been really enjoyable actually. I've really enjoyed mixing and matching different sort of themes of it really, and I got to visit one of the most remote, out the way, thankful villages, and had a fantastic night's champing. And that South Devon cycle trail, I'll put a link in the description below to all of this, but I thoroughly recommend that if you're ever that way. But just be warned, 2 warnings really, a couple of disclaimers, tips, whatever you want to call it. It is quite challenging. I would sort of say just allow plenty of time for it, and I would also sort of say be well stocked up on supplies, food, water, because all that's on it really is pubs, you know, and if you get to a pub when it's not open, you know, you're in trouble. I'm now looking forward to my holiday next month, rapidly approaching. So I'm riding from my hometown in Bath to York, visiting 16 thankful villages. It's about 390 miles, something like that, and I'm going to take about 8 or 9 days. I'm booked into a travel lodge on the last night, and then the next day I've got a train back to Parkway, and then I'll ride from Parkway back home. Not quite sure if I'll make any videos, but between now and then I may think of something. I may ride 1 or 2 DIY Aldexes, but I just don't seem to film those these days. I've done tons of those in the past. Anyway, if you got this far, I hope you enjoyed coming along. Thanks very much for watching, and see you next time.